Welcome to a live webinar from Nairobi, Kenya. I am Professor Elizabeth Weimer. I've led an immersion experience to Nairobi, Kenya. We are leaving for Nakuru tomorrow. I want to tell you a little bit about our agenda. You'll hear from our students about the work that we've been doing, but I want to start by thanking our partners. First and foremost, the Whitman School of Management at Syracuse University for supporting this first immersion experience that is tied to Psalm 354. It is a course offered to all students called Managing in a Global Setting. And of course, without the support of the department led by Dr. Dwadekar, as well as the Kabak Center led by Dr. Kovios, we certainly would not be in Nairobi, Kenya. You'll get a chance to meet a lot of our great partners, but I want to give special credit to Tirzah International for their partnership and the support of letting us work with their artisan partners, as well as allowing us to stay with them in the Home Care Retreat Center, which is where we are live from this evening in Nairobi. So before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about where this immersion experience came from. As I mentioned, I teach one of the core classes in Whitman, Psalm 354, Managing in a Global Setting. And part of that class involves bringing in some of the experiences I've had connecting global economy and artisan refugees to course content. And what I saw as I was teaching this class is that students were intensely interested in the experience of the artisan refugees, as well as the cultural immersion experiences I was able to share from my own travels. Well, what I thought would be even more interesting is if students could see this firsthand. And so for the first time in spring 2022, I merged my classes with some international partners, and students that were in the class were able to work with my international partners based here in Kenya and solve critical challenges for their business. And then this travel team was able to take those challenge solutions and see them implemented on the ground. And that's what we've been doing this week in Nairobi. I'll introduce you to some of the key leaders and contributors of this team and then let them tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. So I'll start on my left. This is Isabella Simon. Izzy has been helping us with communication, and if you've been following along on Insta, you've seen all of her amazing posts and stories and all of the ways that she's captured the hard work we've done so far. To my right is our senior student group leader, Vincenzo. Enzo's been doing a great job before we even left the United States, coordinating, communicating, and making sure that the team was ready to travel. Most importantly, coordinating yellow fever shots.
Yes.
He is the yellow fever king, should you ever need that immunization. And then last but not least, we have Jared, who is a sophomore, just completed Psalm 354 with me and has done a fantastic job making this team cohesive, relatable, on time, and having fun as we go along. So that is enough from the faculty lead. I want to hear more from the students about what we've been doing, what your experiences are, and for the next couple of minutes, we'll talk about our time here in Kenya.
Is he starting us off?
So I can kick us off. Thank you all for joining us here today. And if you've been following along on the Whitman Instagram, thank you for your love and support. We've loved sharing our journey with you as our time in Kenya so far. So first we were going to talk a little bit about why each of us chose to come on this trip and why this was really important to us to take our educational journey all the way to Kenya. So each of us has our own individual reasons that we've had a wonderful time explaining and sharing with each other, but a common denominator that each of us had when we were discussing was each of us wanted a cultural immersion experience that we could learn firsthand from people in these situations. So I think some of the most impactful parts of our journey so far, and we've been here for 3 days, and some of our most impactful parts have been speaking to the people in these communities and really learning from them, their experiences, their stories, and everything in between. It has been so wonderful to be able to see what we were learning in Professor Weimer's Psalm 354 class and take a project into real life and really see your work implemented. Just earlier today, a project that I've been working on all semester, I got to do the work that I've been planning for Tirzah Bazaar. So that has been unbelievable and so impactful for our educational experiences, and we are so excited to take away the cultural immersion as well as what we can add to our education background. So I'm now going to pass it off a little bit to Enzo, and he's going to tell you some more.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Izzy, and thank you for everyone again, many times we're going to say it, that have joined us today. So I'm going to be talking about the importance of cultural immersion as well as something that we haven't done yet that we're really much looking forward to. So starting off with the first point that we have is, why is it important for us to have a cultural immersion experience like this? for those of us who live in the United States, we come from a very high point of privilege and in a position where we take a lot of the things that we have for granted. And an immersion experience like this, not only with the partners that we've been collaborating with, but also the culture and the city of Nairobi and soon Nakuru, which we'll talk about more later, as a whole, really helps us to gain perspective on what we have as a nation and how we can, one, take our resources that we have and make the more use out of them, because there are people that we have been collaborating with here that have truly been teaching us so much about how you can maximize the use of your resources of however much that is. And also just be more mindful, more respectful, and more inclusive as a society of what's going on, because it's oftentimes that with people from the United States, we have seemed to have this ignorance and that we don't know a lot of information. And an opportunity like this really helps us to open our eyes to not only gain this information experience, but also seek to look forward to it further on and share that with other people. Something that we're really looking forward to doing that we haven't done yet is tomorrow, we are going to be traveling to Nakuru to work with the CDC, and we're going to be working essentially with someone named Brother Oscar and working with children, and also going to a college and university to see how education compares and differs between the United States and Kenya. So now I'll pass it to Jared and he'll talk a little bit more about some other things.
Can I add a clarification? CDC stands for Child Discovery Center, not Center for Disease Control.
Yep, that is a good
It's a cultural point of difference that I just want to make sure you knew who we were working with here on that. So it is a home for children that are either orphaned or abandoned, and we'll be visiting them to look at educational attainment in Nakuru versus educational attainment goals in the United States.
Thank you for that clarification. Very important.
Thank you. So if I had to describe everything that we've experienced and the people we've met and just a common theme between everything, I would say that a sense of determination is something that's found between anywhere we've been so far in Nairobi. We had the opportunity to go and visit an artisan workshop with one of our partners, and she kind of just took us in under her wing, had no problem welcoming us, introduced us to all of the artisans that were at the workshop, and just we got to see how bags and wallets and all these different products were made and how they get shipped out internationally, which we thought was a really, really awesome experience. And then we had the opportunity to sit down with some of the artisans and interview them, hear about their stories, where they're from, their family dynamics, what motivates them and what they're passionate about. And then the most impactful thing, at least that I took away, was what they dreamed to do. Because everybody that we talked to had a dream of eventually scaling up and owning their own, bead shop or owning their own design wear and things of that nature. So just a sense of determination and wanting to achieve as much as possible was very much present throughout everything we did. Experiencing that at the artisan workshop was a very, very, very impactful thing. And I can say that everybody walked away a very much different person after that experience. And like Enzo said, tomorrow we'll be visiting the Child Discovery Center and Mugwanza College as well. And we'll be experiencing, we actually went on a trip back in Syracuse where we visited the sister school to the CDC, the CBA, Christian Brothers Academy. And there we were able to see some of the similarities between the Lasallian education that exists in Kenya and also in Syracuse. So it's going to be a great experience to kind of, compare and contrast education in both areas, and also get to hear some of the stories from the children there and work with Brother Oscar and just be able to immerse ourselves in the culture through children rather than the businesses that we've worked with so far.
All right, I don't think that we should go any further without talking about your bag and your shirt. So Jared is doing a great job modeling some of the artisan-supported businesses that we were able to visit. So take it, Jared.
Yes, so this bag was actually made at the workshop that we got earlier. It was priced at around, I think it was 5,000 shillings. So in the conversion rate for shillings is about $1 to 100 shillings. So it's about like $50, but it's like very quality leather. It's got a lot of different pockets and everything here. It even unzips. We got some more pockets there. So it was definitely a great pickup. And then the shirt that I'm wearing, we actually got from the Nairobi National Park. On our first day here, right after we got off the plane, we went to the national park and we got to see all sorts of animals, and we rode in a safari van. So we were able to peek our heads out of the top, take pictures outside. We saw like giraffe, rhino, zebra, gazelle, like all sorts of animals. And that was a really cool experience, because I think that was like the first thing that was really like, whoa, like we're in Africa. So that was definitely a great thing. But yeah, so, and we're selling things like this at the gift shop. So I got myself a t-shirt.
That says.
No, yeah, that says pole pole. So pole pole is a common phrase in Africa and Kenya specifically, where it's like, like take it easy, like take your time, like things will come as they will. And it's been a very, very common theme throughout our whole trip as we've been going along and making it to places.
Yeah.
So I thought that it was very appropriate to buy.
So in the spirit of pole pole,
Yes.
bear with us as we very unsophisticatedly transition to the next group. Do you want to take any questions at this time for our first? We have two.
Awesome.
Good. It's what is pole pole?
The first one being what has it been like meeting people of Kenya?
Izzy, why don't you take that?
Yeah, I could take that. I think meeting the people of Kenya has been nothing but inspirational. Everyone we talk to, the first thing they greet you with is the widest smile, and everyone just wants to say hello and welcome you to Kenya and bring you in immediately. And we are so comfortable speaking with them and asking them questions about their stories and sharing their passions as well. And they want to know about our education, which is so wonderful to share with them and discuss the differences there. We got to meet people who attended the University of Nairobi earlier today, which was really interesting. And meeting everyone has been so positive, and you really get to see that entrepreneurs here in Kenya have such a passion for what they're doing, and they love their work, and everything they do has a meaning and a purpose, and they take it back to their families and their communities and reinvest all of their work into those places. So it's been absolutely amazing to meet everyone here.
Good.
Can't say it better myself.
Next one.
Follow-up question is, what has been the most shocking part for the students in traveling to Kenya?
All right, so let's keep it short, keep it to a sentence or two about most shocking. Jared.
Shocking.
We can all say something as well.
Yeah, we can all say something. I would say just like, I don't know, can we come let's
you gotta digest.
All
All right, you got it, Enzo.
I think what was most shocking to me is, as someone who has had the opportunity to travel to almost every other continent in the world, and this being my first time in Africa, I was like, yeah, I've traveled the world. I've seen a lot. I feel like I'm going to be very comfortable, and I am still comfortable, and going to be very excited to see everything. And it'll remind me of a lot of experiences I've had in my past. But I truly can say, out of all the countries I've been to, the first time me being here in Nairobi and coming to Africa, it's truly the best travel experience I've ever had with regards to how it changes my perspective on what we are as a human society in the world. And it's also really changed my understanding of what it means to travel, because when we look at travel, it's mainly touristic, but it's so much more than that.
I got something.
Whoa,
I got something.
wow. It emerged.
Yes, it did emerge. So I would say that I was most shocked by just the sense of resilience that was like between everybody, because just some of the stories that we heard and the things that some of the entrepreneurs that we had the opportunity to talk to, some of the things that they've overcome are things that I don't think any of us could have ever imagined like experiencing on our own. And the fact that they took that, didn't let that bring them down, but kept moving forward was just such an inspirational thing for us to take away, because it really showed just the overall sense of resilience throughout the entire country. Honestly, I feel like everybody we've met so far has that same spirit, and that was really shocking to me, but in a good way.
Shocking. I think that a lot of things haven't been as shocking as they've been exciting. I think it's kind of the way you look at it. So everything we do can be seen as either shocking or exciting. So like meeting the artisans today, I had no idea what the workshop would look like or what some of the processes would look like. So some of the different things they were doing may have been seen as shocking, but it was also so exciting to see the things that we see in an online retail store being made in person and being put into an exact shipping container that's going to reach the United States in July. Like that was such a shocking yet exciting experience to see that kind of supply chain in person.
Yeah. I want to add a small shock, not from a student's perspective, but from the faculty perspective. I am shocked at how engaged this group is. I have kept them up until about 11 o'clock at night, and wake up calls have been about 5 a.m. And they have been engaged and interested and respectful and gracious at every single stop. So I have been shocked that you guys are keeping up. We're halfway through, and I have every faith we can keep doing it.
We got it.
All right, so let's
change.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Excuse
pass
us
on
while we
the-
just.
Awkwardly moved.
All right, you want to start us off here? Sure. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? First?
Yeah, so I'm Justin.
I'm Devin.
I'm Noah. And I'm Rob. And we will be talking about South Women, which is one of our business partners. So South Women / Merging Mundos was designed by Zaina Khanbai to build relationships across the North-South and South-South border through economic empowerment of female entrepreneurs. Both Zaina and her husband Justo are involved in the firm, and we were able to spend some wonderful time with them on Tuesday. One of the main points that Zaina emphasized on that day was the need to understand the various aspects that go into conducting business in different areas of the world. South works to bridge that gap by providing connections and other resources to their female entrepreneurs to promote a productive global business environment.
So I'll be talking about a topic that we discussed during our meeting with Zaina, which is Network of the Future. This is essentially creating a legacy. So we define legacy during our meeting as constructing a future for others, as well as can be cultivated over the span of a lifetime. There are a couple points that we need to emphasize on in order to really do this the best way. The first one being maximizing impact. We plan to start this program by starting it with SU students, or to be SU driven, in order to really understand the best strategy. Another one being minimal cost. This would help incentivize others to help our cause as well. One challenge or idea that really was a problem with our approach was the innovative approach of bridging that gap between the North-South and South-South. One innovative way that came to us during our meeting was the implementation of technology, given the fact that most of the world is digitally driven. An example of this would be to create a social media outlet or platform where individuals could go to learn from personal experiences of other people from other countries about specific topics such as food, music, or even photography. This would essentially be a global culture platform. Some name ideas that we brainstormed would be the North Meets South or International Engagement Center.
Yeah, so during our talks, we had an idea to create a partnership with SU students and Zaina. And this plan would essentially create cohorts within Whitman, connecting students with entrepreneurs with the goal of both parties being able to gain benefits from one another. After talking with Zaina, we also had the privilege to meet with 3 entrepreneurs during her legacy talks. And these legacy talks just consisted of conversations with other entrepreneurs who shared their stories and gave inspiration to SU students in our group that could give us benefits throughout the rest of our school and education, and as well as throughout our career for job opportunities.
So then we just wanted to touch a little bit more about what Zaina really harped on was her mission and her main purpose with her starting South Women. So she really honed in on the importance of talking about passions and dreams. And so our Kenya team had the privilege to go around with Zaina and talk about something that we are passionate about and what our dreams are in the future, and how that really just connects everybody and drives a lot of the entrepreneurs here in Kenya. And so through that conversation of the Kenya team being able to kind of discuss what's important to us, we were able to then use that to then brainstorm more ideas for Zaina to then use with her company. And so then another thing that she was really interested in is creating some kind of mutual mentorship program. And so we talked about that, using it with Syracuse students, and talking about it in a sense that it's really valuable to share knowledge, and that goes in with talking about passions and connecting people with similar passions that then leads to new entrepreneurial ideas.
Any questions?
Yeah. We do have Zaina on the other end. Zaina, if you'd like to unmute and share.
Hi, everyone. So great to see you guys and to hear you feedback about your experience from our time together. I've still been processing, especially some of the big phrases and the brand new words that were just flowing from the group and from all your mouths while we were brainstorming together. I really feel enthusiastic about what you will be able to take forward from this point as student leaders in what came across to me as creating a platform that runs parallel to your academic education, and that will allow or enable you and like-minded students to grow in the area of what they are passionate about, what they're dreaming about, and putting that into practice or action in everyday life by connecting with people across continents, connecting with people across cultures of the same peer group, and also people that you can connect to who have walked the path before you and may have knowledge, information, wisdom to share, and in the same aspect, learn from you. So I think that what we have is the making of a very, very beneficial project that fills a gap. It fills a gap that would actually or could actually enable all of you and all of us to grow into the kinds of people who are amazing entrepreneurs and business people in whatever element of career that we're embarking on that. And also the right kind of people to be able to bridge the world, because that's where we're going, and doing that as you live the best version of yourselves, which is not an easy at all process. So that's what I got from you, and that's what I believe or feel that we are co-creating together. And I know that the four of you offered to lead this initiative, and I cannot wait to partner with you in that.
Yes, thank you so much. And a follow-up question for our panelists is, how has this experience in particular changed how you look at your life in the US? Are there any specific examples of this?
I mean, I think we could all say a sentence or two about it. Definitely going around to the communities showed us just how I'm gonna need to pass this on. Sorry, I just need to myself. All right. I think I know where Rob is going to go with that, but so I'll steal it. So I think seeing how a lot of the people in Kenya live their lives with such positivity, such a positive outlook, when coming from such, in our perspective from the United States, from very little, is extremely eye-opening, and it shows the resilience. I know that word was said earlier, the resilience of this community, and it really puts into perspective what we're all going through in our lives. While they still may be great issues, it puts it into perspective with what is also going on in the world, and it's been incredibly enlightening and eye-opening and such a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I would say something that was really eye-opening for me was during our conversation at our meeting with Zaina. We were able to meet with 3 other female entrepreneurs, and they all had their own stories about what drove them to become an entrepreneur, why they wanted to do it, and how they kind of got there. And so between the 3 of them, they all had various struggles, which, as we were mentioning before, they have just come from a different life than we have, and they would face struggles that none of us ever will. And so seeing how people have come from either like religious discrimination or the lack of acceptance of female business leaders, and that has not discouraged them from being an entrepreneur. As a female, talking to them is extremely empowering, and I really valued that conversation, because that would be different than any other female in America talking about being an entrepreneur.
So adding on to what Devin said, I think the legacy talks were very inspirational for me. I think that given the fact that we talk to these women entrepreneurs with such obstacles in the business world, specifically their strong ambition and desire to see change, it really inspired me, given that there really is no obstacle that come your way that you cannot overcome to really create what you want to see in the world. Just being given the fact that they were given these strong obstacles, I know there's a couple I mentioned some names, Priscilla, Kelly, they really inspired me to just see just really create the change that I want to see in the world. And if no one's going to do it, I'm going to have to be able to do it. I think it's more about actions over words.
Great, thank you. And that actually concludes this section, but Noah, you actually got a compliment on your bucket hat.
It honestly means a lot. It honestly means a lot.
You
Thank
see
you.
the pants?
Right.
It's been an initiative.
It matches my pants.
So that's
Thank
going to be represented. That's. Yeah.
And starting us off for our panel for Tirzah is Stacia.
That's me. Hi, everyone. I'm Tirzah's Creative Communications Director. So a little bit about Tirzah. We're a global nonprofit. We work in 35 countries around the world, and we served over 7,000 women and families last year. And we do this by partnering with local female leaders to create opportunities for women to find their full potential, mostly through 3 core initiatives. So we work a lot with microfinance and micro enterprise. We have 14 programs around the world that impacts over 300 women every year. We also do a really rigorous leadership curriculum. We've impacted I think it's 1,200 leaders so far this year, all female, all young, often being the global majority with less education than a lot of us have had access to. And our 3rd initiative is sustainability. And this is where everyone here comes in. We work really hard to develop sustainable goals and development in all the communities we work in. So a big part of this is connecting artisans that we know and love, and the women who are coming out of our programs with a lot of skills, training, business dreams that we've heard about today, and connecting them to this global market. So the Tirzah Bazaar is kind of our research and development for finding ways to connect these incredible artisans, their skills, the crafts that they love, to a market around the world that's really interested in what they do and their stories and supporting their dreams. So I'm going to pass it off now that we're all the way to the Tirzah Bazaar from Tirzah International.
Yeah, so just kind of going off of that, I'm going to talk about how our class that we took with Professor Whitman, Psalm 354, which is managing in a global setting, how that has really built a great foundation for all of us leading up to this trip. So in that class, we took on a lot of group projects, specifically working with Tirzah, and these Weimar gave us the opportunity to really apply all of our management skills to Tirzah's specific business organization, including supply chain, marketing, retail, and any other business challenges that they may face. So this project really encouraged us to start looking at things from a more global perspective, as we're all global citizens in one way or another. So, and I guess a side note for that too is, as of today, we're already halfway through the trip, and it's already been so incredible to see how our ideas and partnerships have kind of come to life. And I feel as though we could all say that Psalm 354 or even INB 400, which is this other class, it's a 1-credit class that we all enrolled in after spring break with Professor Weimer, and we meet weekly and we plan for this trip and basically discuss everything that we're going to sort of do in the process. I think we could all agree that this has been a really good foundation for coming here and kind of helped us feel more connected to Tirzah specifically when we came here. And so back to the class portion, the teams within the Psalm classes and sections have all developed throughout the semester really unique and creative business ideas and pitches. And these have been used to hopefully expand the consumer base for Tirzah and open these women and their stories up to more opportunities. So we, as a travel team, used these and reviewed a lot of these ideas. And we worked beside Stacia to start implementing the proposals of all of these. So overall, I think we're really thankful for this opportunity, but more importantly, that the class, Psalm 354, has connected us to Stacia and Tirzah, because it has given us all an opportunity that we never would have had. Going to Kenya alone, none of us have been before, but also just being in a partnership with Tirzah. And I think we could all say it's been a really mutually beneficial relationship and partnership where even us, we have all learned something and gained so much perspective and knowledge from this experience and this partnership. So now I'm going to pass it on to Divya.
My name is Divya, and I'm going to speak a little bit more about the work we've done with Tirzah here on the ground in Kenya. Today, we had the opportunity to visit Tirzah this morning at Isabella's studio. Isabel is one of the lead artisans that runs the product development and production here in Nairobi, and we visited her studio. She's an incredible individual who has worked very, very hard to encourage women who have come out of the leadership program, as well as network with local artisans around Kenya, as well as we learned today, even Tanzania, to create the incredible products that you see on the Bazaar's website. In Isabel's studio, we were able to meet many different artisans from the variety of trades that the workshop has, from brass and jewelry work to leather, as well as horn work and glassware. We were able to speak with such a diverse group of artisans with such unique stories tied to them. In order to implement some of the proposals from class, we took the time to interview these artisans and to learn about their stories, to hopefully allow these products to have an incredible connection with their stories as well. One of the best questions we asked today throughout our interviews was, what are your dreams and what is your motivation? And it was so important and incredible to learn how most of these, almost all of these artisans have an entrepreneurial mindset already within them. And all of their dreams were to become a lead artisan, to have their own workshop, to expand, to be the person creating the impact for other individuals as well. And as business students who have just finished Psalm 354, it's really critical to understand and to learn here in Kenya how an entrepreneurial mindset can be so different here in Kenya from what we're used to in the US. And I think we all left that studio inspired by learning from these entrepreneurs and these artisans. And I'll pass it over to Tish, who will talk about a very specific partnership.
Yeah, so sort of to build off what Jenna said in terms of the group project and what Divya said and who we're currently working with. In terms of like on the students' behalf and how we sort of engage with this whole experience, we've been working with one specific organization in Kenya to sort of push the envelope a little bit and see how much we really can do in terms of a partnership with Tirzah. To explain this organization briefly, it's referred to as the Mwelu Foundation. I was connected to the starter of it while tabling in the middle of Whitman, believe it or not. Quite the coincidence. And so I've been lucky enough to communicate with him over the phone frequently and through email. We plan on meeting him in person for the first time this Friday. And we're so much looking forward to his experiences and how much he has to offer. So in specific to what he does and what his organization does, the Mwelu Foundation teaches kids starting at the ages of 13 and usually holds them for about 5 years, how to use cameras, and gives them photography skills so that they have an asset that they can sell themselves with and get them a job in the workplace. The organization is based in an informal community named Not There. It's one of the largest slums in Nairobi. And Julia has explained to me over the phone many times how much of an impact that has made for him and also his students. And we're mostly just looking forward to all that he has to say this upcoming Friday and seeing where that partnership sort of can go in terms of Tirzah and where we're working together in the future.
Great, thank you. For our first question, we have, if you could pick one of the biggest struggles of the people that you met today, that they face on a day-to-day basis, what will that struggle be?
I can speak to one artisan we met today. Her name was Masi, and she works within the leather work in the workshop today. And we learned a lot about her facing adversity of being a woman within the Kenyan culture, where women aren't normally, seen as the worker or the income bearer within the family, and how she faced that adversity to not only provide for herself, but also her children. That was a common theme throughout many of the artisans, was that they took the opportunity to develop the skill and then be able to not only support themselves, but their family in a situation that they probably would not have been able to do had they not taken the chance and been a part of the the incredible studio.
Yeah, and just going off that quickly, our interview with Isabel specifically was super insightful in regards to like some struggles she may have faced, like especially on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things she told like to us in the video was right there next to me, she said this, which we were all kind of really inspired after she said this. She told us how so many people rely on her and her business and what she leads. So even when she has those slow days or months or whoever, like when things get a little rough, she always puts on a face, and she told us how she comes to work and she doesn't let that show because so many people are relying on her. And that's also part of what she said was like her passion, and what inspires her is the fact that all these people, she could provide for them and their families, and that inspires her so much, which is what keeps her going through the times when it's a little bit slower or maybe things are rougher for her.
Great. Follow-up question to that is, how have your individual roles really come to life while you've been in Kenya? And kind of go into that connection that you find in between Psalm 354 as well as actually being here in Kenya.
Sure. So I would say in the beginning of this trip, we all were assigned a specific role, but being on the trip in general, I think a lot of us have sort of expanded and stepped up to the opportunity of whatever really was held for us. In terms of how the course content has related to experience and our roles in the experience, I would say that the course content gave us the knowledge and the skills to be able to apply ourselves and give ourselves the fully immerse ourselves in this country and the culture it has to offer. Without sort of the academic background that we learned in Psalm 354, I could see it being a lot more difficult to not only understand the culture that we're immersed in right now, but also engage with it. And just one last piece on that, unless you guys have anything else to say, I would say that our roles are continuing to expand, not only in this trip, but just in life in general, and how much we see ourselves doing for the globe and how much we as individuals can contribute and impact society.
Great, thank you guys. I think we're going to rotate one final time, and yeah.
I'm just saying.
Hi.
Hi.
Wrap-up portion. Thanks for hanging in there with us for the webinar. Greg, it's the first time before in front of the camera instead of behind. So why don't you tell a little bit about your experience while Stasia joins us for our wrap-up and final questions?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been everything I expected and more. I didn't really have too accurate of expectations coming to Kenya, but it's just been tremendous learning, hands-on, first person, just being here. And I think everyone else did such a great job like touching on that. But yeah, having this experience has really inspired me to hopefully travel more in the near future.
Stasia, what has your experience been like? Because you met our team on Zoom a few times over the course of the semester, and we gave you some ideas. So I'd love to hear from a stakeholder perspective how this semester and then the trip have impacted and perhaps helped Tirzah.
For sure. I have to say I didn't know what to expect upon like meeting the travel team either on Zoom or in person, and you can really only get so far on Zoom. Like I could tell we're an incredible group of people, partially by the value in responses and like course assignments that we received from especially people in this room, the level of like depth of thought and the real leaning into the pain points that we as like a nonprofit have and are struggling with every day, the way they empathetically heard and listened and were like, okay, we really want to sit with this and understand and provide a way to move forward that's healthier for everybody involved. It's like, okay, this group is like really quality. And then I met them, I was like, oh my goodness, where do you find these people? Every single day they're coming up with new ideas, the way they, I think he talks a little bit about this, the course content, the little bit that I saw has allowed them to view the culture that we're privileged to be in right now in such a holistic and meaningful way. They've really just like blown me away every day, as well as Elizabeth. She's just like shown up with so much energy and strategy at the same time, honing in.
It's coffee, but thank you.
It's all coffee, but also it's all learning. I've just been really impressed by the way they've set it up and also provided like so much value to us and our partners.
Thank you. Not promoted, not thank you.
Awesome. So for our first question, how many of the students' implementations and ideas are going to be considered or undertaken in terms of partnering with the businesses?
So I guess within the Psalm 354 sections, Professor Weber has 3 total sections. So there was a plethora of proposals that came in. And I think what we did as a travel team was come up with major themes within the proposals for implementation. So for example, the interviews that were conducted today were under this umbrella of a theme of connecting these stories and going more in depth within the stories of these artisans when tying them to the product themselves, as well as we spoke specifically today with Isabel regarding supply chain management and their own transportation costs and things of that sort within another umbrella of supply chain challenges that Tirzah faces. So I guess what we did was take a lot of those proposals and turn them into major themes so that each student's class content was implemented in its own way.
That's awesome. Another question that we had, I guess this would be more for Stasia. How have you, as Tirzah Bazaar and Tirzah International, developed such close relationships with the artisans?
That's a great question. So Tirzah's been around for over 25 years. It started out relationally with incredible women leaders who started nonprofits all over the world. And those relationships of women living and working in their communities for decades now, they know their neighbors, they know what's happening, they understand how community development works best for the people that they love the most and for the women in their lives. And so artisan-wise, we really just get connected through communicating well with our partners and understanding the needs and assets of the communities that we get to work in.
That's awesome. Awesome. And I guess one more question that we have in here, I guess this can be directed more towards the students on the trip. What personally drove you to want to, jump on an experience like this when Professor Whitman presented the opportunity?
Yeah, so I didn't have the privilege to have Weimer as my sound professor, but I did have a great professor in Professor Z. But while I was in class one day, she mentioned that, hey, the SOM course is going to be putting together a trip to Kenya. My ears immediately stuck up. I don't know, I just have never even considered taking a trip to Africa. So I just immediately wanted to learn more. And yeah, I'm sure grateful that I did.
Yeah, I really wanted to pet a giraffe. Was the real reason. But actually I wanted to obtain a cultural experience, but also see and create an impact like within ourselves. I think this was when this trip was proposed, it was the idea of working on something and contributing to an idea for an entire semester and then being able to see it implemented. A lot of, I guess, class projects tend to just finish at the end of the semester and tend to just like end with no next steps. But this was an opportunity for us to take what we've learned, take our ideas and our creativity and be able to see it come in action. And I think that what just like drove me to this trip because it was a mix of fun, but also, tying the class and the course together.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys for your answers. Those are all the questions we have, but Professor Weimer, just give it to you to close us out.
That's it. I mean, I think you've heard from all of the members that are in the room, and we've represented what we hope was a good representation of our travel partners with Sina, and thank you, Stasia, for hanging out for our Zoom too. Here we are heading toward 8 o'clock, and that is pole dinner time, 6:30 to 8, sometime in there we'll eat, and then heading to bed and heading to Nakuru bright and early tomorrow morning. So thanks for joining us for this webinar. Thanks for your interest in the trip. And thanks again to Whitman for allowing students to see firsthand some of what we talk about in the classroom lived out in real life.